You're muted.
Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Giridharidhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Bhakti Bhavati Aishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Indaya Namo Namaha. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, a very good morning to all of you. We are reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Samam Bonam, as Prabhupada calls it. And the 90th chapter, this is the last chapter in the 10th canto, and we'll be covering texts 22 and 23. So, text 22. Nachalasi navadasya udara buddhe Kshitidhara chintayase mahantamartham Apibata Vasudevanandanam Vayamiva Kamayase Stanair Vidhartum. Translation. We'll do the synonyms for the next one. Translation and purports by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. O magnanimous mountain, you neither move nor speak. You must be pondering some matter of great importance. Or do you, like us, desire to hold on your breasts the feet of Vasudev's darling son. Purport. Here the words Tanaihi on your breasts refers to the mountain's peaks. Text 23. Sushadradhakar shitabat sindupatnya sampratyapasta shriya ishtabhartuhu yadvadvayam madhupatehe pranayavalokam aprapya mushtaridaya purukarshita smaha. Synonyms: Shushat, drying up; Radaha, whose legs; Karshitaha, shriveled up; Pata, alas; Sindhu, of the ocean; Patnyaha, O wives; Samprati, now; Apasta, lost; Kamala, of lotuses; Shriyaha, whose opulence; Ishta, beloved; Bhartuhu, of the husband; Yadvat, just as; Vayam, we; Madhupatehe, of Krishna, the Lord of Madhu; Pranaya, loving; Avalokam, the glance; Aprapya, not obtaining; Mushta, cheated; Hridayaha, whose hearts; Puru, thoroughly; Karshitaha, emaciated; Sma, we have become. Translation. O rivers, wives of the ocean, your pools have now dried up. Alas, you have shriveled to nothing, and your wealth of lotuses has vanished. Are you, then, like us, who are withering away because of not receiving the affectionate glance of our dear husband, the Lord of Madhu, who has cheated our hearts? Purport. During the summer, the rivers do not receive downpours of water provided by their husband, the ocean, via the clouds. But the real reason for the river's emaciation, as the queens see it, is that they have failed to obtain the loving glance of Lord Krishna, the reservoir of all happiness. The real reason for the river's emaciation, as the queens see it, is that they have failed to obtain the loving glance of Lord Krishna, the reservoir of all happiness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kalamayam Dadati Swabalantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Maum Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Ramile Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauradvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam panghum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you. Thank you for joining. I seek blessings from all of you. Adipurush Prabhu, all the senior Vaishnavas, so that we can discuss something that is uplifting to all of us, that takes us closer to Krishna and that is in line with the Guru Parampara. So a very strange uh, theme is going on right now, where the queens of Dwarka, on an external sense, this is a very strange thing that's happening because Krishna is there, he's in their presence, yet they are talking to these entities around them as if he's not present. And but these are very esoteric pastimes. They look strange, but they are esoteric. And I was hearing a class in which Radhanath Maharaj says that the reflection of such mentality of the queens is actually seen in the material world as well, in the sense that uh, even in the mundane love of a lover for a beloved in the material world, when that love consumes them so much, it goes to an extent that they start seeing their beloved everywhere around them. So that reflection is seen in the material world as well. And Prabhupada writes in one of the second canto purports that, all this philanthropy, all this altruism, all this charitable disposition that the soul, that somebody might have on the material level, on a mundane level, is actually a partial manifestation of that love for Krishna that we have. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna. So similarly, the love that we have within us is also a part and parcel of Radharani, the pleasure potency of Krishna. So although it is supposed to be directed ideally towards Krishna, it is currently misdirected. But because it is very innate to us, that has to come out in some way or the other. And it comes out within this world in the form of altruism, in the form of philanthropy, in the form of doing something, some service, some giving some love and receiving some love towards the entities of this world. So Prabhupada writes here that in the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. So it's very innate to us, love for Krishna. And it is not something, it is the dharma of the soul. We must have discussed this so many times now, that something that is inseparable. Dharma is something that is inseparable. So the dharma of the soul is to love and serve Krishna specifically. But because of our conditioned nature, we are misdirecting it into the various things of this world. So coming back to this particular theme of these queens of Krishna, they are talking to these entities around them as if, Krishna is not present. So in one of the previous purports in the same chapter, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is quoted in the purport where Chakravarti explains that the superficial appearance of insanity in Lord Krishna's queens, as if they had become intoxicated by the tura, or some hallucinogenic drug, was in fact a manifestation of the sixth progressive stage of pure love of God, technically known as Prema Vaichitrya. And a verse from Ujjvala Nilamani is quoted. When, as a natural byproduct of one's extreme love, one feels the distress of separation, even in the direct presence of the beloved, that state is called Prema Vaichitrya. So Vaichitrya in Sanskrit means something strange, Vichitra, they say. So this is a very apparently strange but a very esoteric expression of love for Krishna. There is another pastime that brings out this same kind of rasa. Again, many of you might know this, but it's always nice to repeat and glorify Radharani through this pastime. So once when Radha and Krishna, they were sitting and conversing with each other, that time a bumblebee happened to come there. And the bumblebee happened to see the lotus feet of Radharani, and the lotus feet of Radharani were so beautiful. So the bumblebee started hovering around the lotus feet of Radharani. So it was hovering and it was making this, how the bumblebees make the noise. And then that kind of disturbed Radharani. And she told Krishna and she told the devotees around her that, please, can you do something about this little bumblebee? I'm getting bothered by it or whatever. And then Krishna and others, Madhumangal and Lalita Sakhi, they drive away that bumblebee. Now, one of the names of a bumblebee is Madhu. And Madhu also happens to be one of the names of Krishna. Tvai me ananya vishaya matir madhupate sikrit ratim udvata dada gange vogamudar. Kunti Maharani is praying, just like the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be to you, the Lord of Madhu, without being diverted to anything or anyone else. So Madhu is also a name of Krishna. And once the bumblebee was driven away from that place, Radharani is there, and then Lalita, she comes and tells Radharani that Radharani, Madhu has gone. So when she says Madhu has gone, Krishna is right there, but Radharani starts feeling that separation just by hearing those words that Madhu has gone. And she's like, oh no, how she starts crying incessantly, and she's, how come my Lord has left me and things like that. But Krishna is right there. He's right there with her, he's holding her, and then seeing her intense love, he also starts crying. And their tears, they form what is today known as the Prem Sarovar in Vrindavan. And it is said that when one bathes there in the Prem Sarovar, they also become recipients of such a kind of love for Krishna. So these are very esoteric pastimes, and there is another pastime glorifying the supreme love of Krishna's devotees, especially Radharani. So once when Krishna had disappeared from the Ras Leela, or from the pastimes of with the gopis, they were searching after him everywhere in the forest. And at one point, Krishna dressed up as Lord Narayan. He took a form of Lord Narayan and he manifested himself in the forest. And then when he did that, they were searching everywhere, and they reached that point where Krishna was in the form of Lord Narayan. And seeing Lord Narayan, they knew Lord Narayan is he's the supreme Lord and whatnot. So they started praying to Lord Narayan, please, dear Lord, tell us where our Lord of heart, our maintainer is Krishna. Please tell us where he is. And then then Radharani, the gopis, they started expressing, they're describing Krishna wonderfully and express their desire to please Krishna through service. And seeing that pure, intense love of Radharani, actually Krishna could not hold his form of Narayan. That form of Narayan kind of melted away, and Krishna manifested his own form. So this is the supremacy of Radharani's love. This is the supremacy of the love of the queens of Krishna for Krishna. Yes, the four-handed form. So Narayan is the four-handed form of Krishna, and Lord Narayan is again an expansion of Krishna, a plenary expansion of Krishna, who is from whom this material world, the world actually manifests. So these pastimes, they defy all rationality. So we often think of spiritual, we all have a rational faculty, and we all have an emotional faculty in us. And we initially, in the progressive stages of Krishna consciousness as sadhakas, we need to have our rationality. That rationality, actually, the ultimate aim of that rationality is to come to the point that rationality is not enough. So the ultimate aim of rationality is to understand that rationality is not enough. So, the point of rationality, the point of reasoning, is to understand that ultimately my intellect is limited. Ultimately, my ability to grasp this creation is limited. My ability to grasp Krishna is limited, and that is why we, in the progressive stages, though, we can't give up rationality, because if we give up rationality, then we might get deviated from the path. It's very easy to get deviated from the path. So the rationality has to be there. But at the same time, that rationality needs to be subordinated by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So subordinated under Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Because if we were to fit Krishna into our intellect, then Krishna won't be the supreme, our intellect will be the supreme. So Krishna, by definition, because he's the supreme Lord, he's the supreme personality of Godhead and unlimited, and our intellects being limited, our reasoning cannot fit Krishna within it. So our reasoning is not enough. So Krishna is much, much more than our reasoning. So ultimately, our rationality is supposed to bring us to the point of developing genuine love for Krishna. And this is what Jiva Goswami also, in his Sandarbhas, of course, I haven't read the Sandarbhas personally, but I've heard lectures on the Sandarbhas. And that's what Jiva Goswami also concludes. So he does a rigorous intellectual analysis of everything, of all the Shastras in the Sandarbhas. And it's so rigorous that, you you can do a PhD on one verse of one chapter in the Sandarbhas. That is the kind of depth that Jiva Goswami was such a scholar that he doesn't even, when he quotes somebody else, it's not that he will quote the verse and he'll say this is the verse, this is the translation, therefore this is the, well, there everybody knew Sanskrit, most of the people knew Sanskrit that time, so there was no translation as such. But then the way he does is, okay, this is the principle, this is the point, and then if you want substantiation for this, go to Madhvacharya's commentary, this particular book, this particular verse, move on. So the Radhika Raman Prabhu and they all mentioned that that is the level of intellect that Jiva Goswami had, that even the readers of Jiva Goswami, there is an implicit assumption that they should be so qualified that just by reading that, okay, from this commentary, this verse, and this is a substantiation for proof for this principle. Okay, yeah, I know that. Continue. That is the kind of intellect one is supposed to have when one studies Jiva Goswami's work. And then this Jiva Goswami, in the end, he brings in this Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. And Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva is that the inconceivable simultaneous oneness and difference, where basically on a level of heart, what it means is that, dear Lord, my intellect can bring me to this point, but beyond this point, it's your grace that will. So beyond this point, I can't, my intellect is unable to grasp. So I surrender unto you. That's where surrender comes. So that humility is very important. That we can be rational, but we can be humbly rational also. Prabhupada often used to criticize these scientists and everyone, but what he really, in essence, he criticizes is that a falsely prideful reasoning and rationality of these scientists, which took them away from Krishna, and which took people who followed them also away from Krishna. So like that, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna himself, he defies all rationality, and we need to know what place rationality has. So, but anyway, so one of the ways Krishna is described in the purports is that Krishna is the reservoir of all happiness. And this reservoir of all happiness, reservoir of all pleasure, comes in many places in the Shastras, in the purports of Prabhupada also. And Krishna is described with so many terms, so many phrases like Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He's described, Ramante Yogino Nante, reservoir of pleasure, and so many other Anandamaya Vyasa and things like that. So Krishna is the reservoir of pleasure, and but at the same time, I was reflecting on this transcendental conundrum that Krishna is the reservoir of pleasure, yet it is said that when we practice bhakti, we should do it, or when we do anything, we should do it for the pleasure of Krishna. We say we want to do it for the pleasure of Krishna, but hey, Krishna is the reservoir of pleasure already. There is unlimited pleasure in him. So how is this, right? But anyway, the understanding is that it's again Achintya Bheda Bheda in the sense that Krishna is a reservoir of pleasure. There is unlimited pleasure in him. Still, he's happy and he's desiring to get love from each and every living entity. And a bigger factor is that by practicing bhakti, by doing activities for the pleasure of Krishna, we actually that actually purifies us. And when that purifies us, we can go closer to Krishna and then become part of his pastimes, part of his Leela. And we are actually already part of his Leela in the form of Lord Chaitanya. So the analogy of a reservoir is very nice here. So consider that there is a very nice reservoir of water, reservoir of very soothing and nectarine water. And when somebody goes and bathes, when we go and bathe in that nectarine water of the reservoir, just by the virtue of bathing in that water, we get nourished by that water. So similarly, when we surrender unto Krishna and we try to serve for his pleasure, we are actually kind of trying to get a dip in that reservoir of pleasure, which is Krishna, who is Krishna. And then just by doing that, it is said that even a drop of that pleasure of Krishna that can inundate the entire universe with pure love for him. So that is the power of that of Krishna's pleasure, Krishna's the drop of pleasure in bhakti. So Anyway, so this was a transcendental paradox, and so this is a very nice section. And one thing that I just thought while reading the uh, purport, again, devotees can correct me here. So one of the things said in the purport is, but the real reason for the river's emaciation, as the queen see it, is that they have failed to obtain the loving glance of Lord Krishna, the reservoir of all happiness. So this is very interesting. This statement is very interesting because the pure devotees who have pure love for Krishna. So it is said that compassion and love, they actually go together. Compassion is actually a byproduct of the love that one has for Krishna. So if when a pure devotee has so much pure love for Krishna, they see these other struggling living entities who haven't gotten the grace of Krishna, then they feel that, So Prabhupada used to say, the solution for all your problems is devotion service. So the root cause of the suffering in humanity is because we have turned away from God. And I was, I thought of that when I read this, but the real reason for the river's emaciation is the queen seed. So pure devotee, because their heart is inundated with love for Krishna, they know that the ultimate cause for anyone in the material world suffering is because they haven't received Krishna's mercy. Rather, they have received Krishna's mercy is available, but they haven't made the effort to access it. And that is why a pure devotee actually, out of their compassion, they try to, come to the level of, a struggling materialist, and they try to preach to them and they try to bring them closer to Krishna. They know that the root cause is separation from Krishna, is that we have turned away from Krishna. So that is the greatness of love for Krishna, that it is not just something that one is satisfied in itself and one doesn't care about others. That the I guess the natural byproduct of love for Krishna is that when we see someone who does not have that love, or who does not value that love and is suffering in the process of doing so, then we become we are affected by that. Of course, that compassion is at different levels, as we can't have the kind of compassion that Prabhupada had. But then the amount of compassion, but we can have the quality of compassion that Prabhupada had. We can start small. We can start small and then slowly expand our love, and for Krishna, and with that love, our compassion will also expand. So that way we can start small, and but it can be of quality. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I was thinking, I was reflecting on. 7:45, we have 15 minutes for reflections, corrections, questions.
Thank you very much, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Adipusha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, good morning. Thank you so much for that class, and it's such a sweet topic. And you were mentioning that we can't get there just by reason. We can approach it, but at one point, this is beyond reason. And then the other part is that Krishna can reveal himself. We can't find the sun by searching a flashlight to the east before dawn or lighting a candle, but the sun can come up and show itself and show everything. So Krishna is so wonderful that he wants. They have that song, Lord, I want to see you. I really want to see you, and Krishna really wants us to see him. That's really nice to know that it's not just us reaching out to him, but he's arranging things. And one thing Prabhupada said that struck me, and I try to remember, he said that if we see Krishna everywhere, we'll see beauty everywhere, because Krishna is the reservoir of beauty. He is the source of beauty. If we see Krishna everywhere, we'll see beauty everywhere, even in something that seems adversity or, tragic, or like it says, like the earth was overcome by the unnecessary defense forces of demoniac kings. The earth was overcome, but it was wonderful because it evoked the devotees turning to Krishna and appealing to Krishna, and Krishna coming and exhibiting so many amazing pastimes, killing demons and protecting devotees. So it's all good. all things work for the good for those who love God. To nasochati na conchati, neither hankering nor lamenting. Brahma Buddha Prasanama. When we're on this actual spiritual platform, there's no hankering and no lamenting for anything. How wonderful is Krishna that he done sometimes that there are no problems. The problem is I'm not seeing it as Krishna's loving hand. It's not a problem. It's my misperception. Anyway, we'll go to Prabhupada's already talked to me.
Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Oh, Janitai Prabhu would like to speak. Janitai Prabhu, please.
Thank you, Prabhu. I was just going to, first, very nice class. Always appreciate your classes, relish them. Well prepared and erudite in your delivery, especially as Adipushu was pointing out. Yeah, this nice point of using our intellect to kind of approach Krishna, but then realizing that we have to abandon that at some point and it depend on really the emotion of the heart and the connectivity of Krishna. So my question is kind of a little technical and maybe difficult, but where is that point where we abandon intellect and stop using the rational mind, one might ask, and our approach to Krishna and accept, just that it's all heart. At the moment, a few of us are reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and we're just at the part where Gopal Kumar has started to introduce himself and tell his story, and he's describing one sannyasi, one Brahmin who used to be in the area, and how he just given his whole life to chanting, and sometimes he would fall down on the ground, and because he was in such ecstasy, his saliva and mucus and everything would mix with the earth of Braj and just turn it to mud. So just wonder, where is the point where we give up our rationality and intellect and employ the other?
Yeah, so on one level, I feel from my own personal experience, it's not like a binary thing that till whatever point of time I am using my rationality, and then beyond that I stop using my rationality and understand it's all Krishna's grace. I think even in our daily Krishna consciousness, this aspect comes in, that we subordinate our intellect or rationality through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Now it's not that we need to give it up, but we need to subordinate it, and that's what. So Jiva Goswami also at one place he says that the driving factor for a Raganuga Bhakta is emotion or spontaneity, something to that effect. The emotion for Krishna, that is a driving factor for a Raganuga devotee, for a devotee who is already tasting the mellows to practice bhakti. That is his motivation, that is his drive. But for a struggling sadhaka, the drive is actually buddhi. It's intellect that drives the practice of a struggling sadhaka. So now I think both go hand in hand. It's like we do use our rationality, but at the same time we understand that my rationality, as long as it is dovetailed or it is directed in the words of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, then that is actually good rationality. But if my rationality takes me away from Krishna, then that is I may need to see how that fits into the whole picture of my bhakti journey. And for that, it needs guidance also, Guru. It's not just Shastra, it's Guru and Sadhu as well. So we need to consult the sadhus, and this has happened with me personally also in many occasions where based on my rationality, based on my reasoning, I thought this is the right course of action to take. But then the devotees who are mentoring me, guiding me, they tell me that no, they have a bigger picture there. So they say that no, this is the path that you have to take. And there are other instances where there is one path that I think I have to take based on my reasoning, and then they validate that yes, this is what you should do. Very good. So then it's not we don't have to think of it as a binary thing, either one or the other. It can be both. It can be both, but the important point is that rationality needs to be subordinated. And in fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, there are various places that Krishna talks about his opinion.
Yes.
So it's a famous example is Yoginam api sarvesham madgate antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. The word mataha in Sanskrit means opinion, and Krishna is expressing his opinions, and he does this at different places. Kshetrajnam chapi mam viti sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetrajnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam. So Krishna is expressing his opinion. So again, those verses have their own importance. But in the Gita, not just Krishna is mentioning his opinion. Arjuna is mentioning his opinion as well. Sanjay is mentioning his opinion as well. Arjuna is saying, Param Brahm, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paravam. And in the Ahustvam Rishaya Sarve Devarshir Naradasata Asitu Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. And he's saying, this is not just my opinion, this is the opinion of the sages and everything. And at another place, he mentions his opinion. And Sanjaya also, he mentions his opinion. The famous verse, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partha Dhanodar Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. So he's also expressing, in my opinion, wherever there is Krishna, Yogeshwar, wherever there's Arjuna, the devotee, there is all prosperity, victory and everything. So these devotees are also mentioning their opinion, but then their opinion is through reasoning also. There is an aspect of reasoning there, but that reasoning is directed in the supreme reasoning of Krishna. So I think, it doesn't have to be binary. And then when do we have to completely give it up or not? That is within, it will come from within us. We'll start experiencing that ecstasy, is what I think in theory. I haven't experienced it, but whatever I've read, and evam vratasva prinam kirtya jatan rago, a very high state of chanting of the holy names is in which one is ecstasy, like a madman dancing, and one doesn't care for the conventions, and one doesn't care what people say about him or her. So that is like the highest stage. But then, I guess once we get there by Guru's mercy, by Krishna's mercy, we will know from within. It's like satiation. When we are satiated by food, we know from within. That's what I think. So that's just my humble thoughts for being.
Thank you very much, Bruce. So, just if I understood, beautiful point. It's not binary, which means it's not like there's a certain point where it turns off and comes on like that. And the other thing which really, really stuck very, very nicely was that the statement that you are driven by your devotion, not by the intellect, right? So Raganuga is driven by the heart, driven by a love for Krishna, not by an intellectual understanding that this is the right thing to do. That's really, really super valuable.
And in the sadhaka stage, it's not the emotion, but it can be intellect, but that intellect is more in terms of discrimination.
Yes.
As to, this is favorable, this is not favorable, so I do what is favorable, like that.
Beautiful. I have another question, but I don't know if anyone else online does. Min has her hand raised. I'm just gonna do something quickly here so you can see.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I have a question in regards to beauty of Krishna, and how Adipusha just mentioned also that Krishna's beauty is everywhere if we open our eyes, and I could kind of understand it in a way that if all this is Krishna's energy, even in the material world, I could potentially sort of understand that. But when it comes to suffering of humanity or the craziness of the world, do those also, do they hold innately Krishna's beauty in them, or is it just that those circumstances have potential for us to see beauty of Krishna only when we call on him?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the suffering of this world, so one way to understand it is, as you rightly mentioned, in that suffering, that's potential to go closer to Krishna. And another way to understand it is that the suffering is out of the free will. So this is one of the things that that often philosophers struggle with. If God is all good, or God is all loving, God is all beautiful, then how do we make sense of the suffering of this world? But then the point that is also mentioned is that again, God's grace is available for everyone. But then, you can think of it like this: one beauty of Krishna, one aspect of the beauty of God, one aspect of the beauty of God's, all-powerful nature is that he doesn't interfere with our free will. So you can think of it like it's in one sense very sublime, because if Krishna knows that he's so powerful that he can alter the free will of anyone, but yet he doesn't do that because he wants the jiva to utilize their free will. Because if there is no free will, then there is no question of love, right? But then the caveat there is, because there is free will, there is also the possibility that one might go wayward, and that's what's the case with many spirit souls. And so in that sense, yeah, that free will is what that gets people into the mess. That gets I've also gotten into mess because of my free will so many lifetimes, I believe. But then that is my free will, and the fact that I have my free will and that Krishna is allowing me to exercise my free will is actually a beauty of Krishna's omnipotence. So that is one way of looking at it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's thank you for that. It's the beauty really of his love for us, allowing us to have free will. Because without that, we can't really eventually come to Krishna and love him wholeheartedly. So that's really great. Thank you.
Sorry if that was speculatory, but just trying to make sense of it. This is how it is. Anyone else wants to share anything? Anybody else? Okay.
No one else?
No.
So I have another question. It calls in the verse, the name for Krishna given is Madhupati or Madhupati.
Yeah.
So then it says the Lord of Madhu.
Yeah.
So usually Krishna can also be referred to as Madhu. So then it became a little confusing because Madhu can also mean honey or something. So do you have any insights into that? Because it kind of jumped out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Lord of
also
Madhu.
sense that when I read the synonyms.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's right. Madhu. So Madhu can also be taken to mean pleasure, and the Lord of all pleasure is Krishna, like that Madhupate. We can think of like that, and then Krishna himself is also the reservoir of pleasure. So Madhu. Yeah, I guess both work, but I look more into it.
Okay, beautiful.
Technicality.
Jai Shishira Murlidhar Gaur Chandra Bhagavan Ki Jai Shridev Ki Jai. Hari Purusha Kamaham Bhajami Venam Kvantam Aravinda Dalayatasyam Bhavatam Samasita Kanda Kakoti Kamaniya Vishena Shashopam Hari Purusham Govinda Hari Purusham Govinda The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. It is great responsibility to feel suffering that obtain the mercy of Krishna. I will be to have consciousness by the words that make me from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is to the perfection that the soul's all desire. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates, and by him, ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scripture studying this direction. Our spiritual master is the ocean of grace. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Jagannath Gopal.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. There's a question in the chat, a great question. I think, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu will not be available for the Afterglow. But here is the question, it's an open question. Let's see if we can address it collectively. Narottam Nitai Prabhu is asking, how do we get over various isms, etc., and perceptions of those who don't view us favorably? Basically, how do we avoid the adibautic difficulties? Adibautic means difficulties coming from other living entities. Is there something in Shastra that helps us overcome these problems? Avoiding difficulties in the material world. Avoiding difficulties coming from other entities. Is that even possible? Would anyone like to address this? Great question, Narottam Nitai Prabhu.
What's the question?
The question from Narottam Nitai Prabhu is, how do we get over various isms, etc., and perceptions of those who don't view us favorably? Basically, how do we avoid the adibautic difficulties? Is there something in Shastra that helps us overcome these problems? Adipurusha Prabhu?
Well, it's not. One of the things Dhanara Maharaj tells us is there's no such thing as a problem. It's all being perfectly arranged by Krishna's loving hand. It's a little noisy here. If you can wait just a minute until I get into the vehicle where it's quiet, maybe somebody else would like to speak first.
Yeah. Adipurusha Prabhu. What was that story where the devotee said there are three types of miseries: Adi Bhautika, Adi Daiviki, Adi something, and Adi Purusha? Because Adi Purusha Prabhu was involved in management, and he was the source of trouble for some devotees. But it was a very auspicious trouble. Imagine if Adi Purusha Prabhu is the trouble that you're dealing with in life. That's very, very auspicious. Okay, Adi Purusha Prabhu.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
You know, what Dhanara Maharaj was saying was that there are not problems. We perceive something to be a problem, but actually it's perfect and wonderful in Krishna's mercy, and there's a loving hand behind it. So it's not that we want to eliminate these things, but don't want to misperceive them.
And Shastra, we need Shastra. You can't just speak without Shastra.
You can't speak without Shastra. Krishna's in control. He's plan, and we're supposed to please Krishna.
I thought other living entities were in control.
Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surdam Sarvabhutanam Gyatpramam Shantam Richati. If we see the reality of the fact that Krishna's in control, Krishna's our friend, and we're supposed to please Krishna, then we will not see anything as a problem.
Yeah. Or anyone.
The Bible says all things work for the good for those who love God. It's our perception that's distorted. It's not the situation. A fearful situation gives us the opportunity to act in a courageous way. A great weight gives us the opportunity to use our strength and lift something. And a perplexing situation gives us the opportunity to use our intelligence in Krishna service and try to figure out how to serve Lord. And we can be grateful to Krishna for these things, not fearful of them, not trying to avoid them. Thank you, Krishna, for everything the way it is. How can I serve you under this circumstance? That's a proper way that a devotee looks at things, according to Guru and Shastra. Are you convinced?
Yes, I'm convinced 100%. Not sure if I can apply that right away, but thank you so much for pointing that out, Adi Purusha Prabhu.
Well, Glory to Prabhupada. Just
And what was that story where they included you, Adi Purusha Prabhu, in that list of three miseries?
well, I was helping with the management in Vrindavan. One devotee used to say, we have Adhyatmic, we have four miseries, Adhyatmic, Adhidaivic, Adhibodic, and Adhipurusha. Me managing, but they saw me as a misery.
Yeah, they should have seen you as a messenger of, as a ray of Vishnu.
They call me Adhikashipu.
Adi Kashipu. Yeah, the one verse comes to mind and heart is Tate Nukam Pamsusimik Shamanu. Here is the translation. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, including Adi Daivika, Adi Atmika, Adi Bhautika, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body. Read Vagvapubir. Heart, words, and body is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Some things maybe we need to tolerate a little bit, not necessarily avoiding or solving. Sometimes we just have to tolerate all the while. We should be grateful to Krishna. We should see Krishna in that situation and person. Right? It's a perception, like Adipusha Prabhu says.
Tolerating, doing and bearing. Thanking Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank,
Kissing the bill.
thank you, Krishna. I don't understand this. I would not prefer it. It is not appealing to me. I did not expect it, but it must be good because you're good and you know what's best for me.
Yeah. Avoiding trouble in the material world, forget it. Forget it. There will be challenges and difficulties. We just have to.
It's a traffic jam.
Traffic jam.
One thing about not, Johnny Ty's question, at what point do we turn, to not relying on our reason and intellect and allow Krishna to reveal to us? And I was interviewing one young man who was traveling in Southeast Asia, and he told me that when he was in college, he was a pole vaulter. You know what that is?
No. You know?
Oh,
Olympic. Oh, okay.
Put it down and push yourself up.
put the toe in the ground and you throw yourself up over this high bar. And he said when he got to the very top and he was stretching to get 1/4 inch, he had done his utmost. Prabhupada uses that word also. I had done my complete utmost and I was straining for that last little shred of space to get a little bit higher. I would pray. Really, really pray, crying out, because I'd given everything, all my strength, all my stretching, I'd done everything utmost. And then he said, and then when he went to one very prestigious divinity school in London, and he said, and then I got my religious perspective more about concepts and philosophy and intellectual. And he said, but it was not the same as that prayer when I'd given everything I've got. And then I would, Krishna, that's it all I've got. That's all I've done. All I can do. If it's not you, I'm finished, So there's that point where we actually give everything to Krishna and we want to do better, where we cry out helplessly.
But that kicks in only after we have done our best trying to deal with the situation, right?
You can always pray, but I mean, there's a quality of prayer, an intensity of prayer, a totality of prayer, a, a, a desperate, really, really, we really mean it, Krishna. Hare Krishna. I'm not kidding. I'm really in the soup here. This is too dangerous, too difficult, too powerful. When the demigods saw that the earth had become overcome by the demoniac forces, unnecessary forces of demoniac kings, then they went to Brahma and they went to Krishna and they offered the Purusha Shakti prayer and say, Lord, Advaita crying out, Lord Chaitanya, if you don't come, it's hopeless. There's no way, unless you personally come here, we can't turn this around. Everything is darkening.
Thank you. Krishna Kumari.
Hare Krishna. I kind of have a comment from yesterday, but maybe it's also applicable today. Yeah, like every green out there, whether it's parsley, cilantro, spinach, kale, they all have a little bit of, I don't know how you say the word, amyloid or something like that. They have a little bit, like cilantro has arsenic. They have a little bit of poison actually in them. So somebody might say, oh, well, don't eat that. It has like the apricot kernels. It has some kind of poison in it. But actually, these kinds of things, the body, when you put something in that's like made by Krishna, so pure, it has a tiny bit of something that's could be considered poisonous. So like people like to like pick apart things, right? But actually, if it's taken in its whole, it gets you to actually get rid of, the liver's happy to have it, and then it gets the body actually to release those poisons. So I don't know, I was just remembering yesterday the conversation of poison, and then just even today, like this same kind of conversation about these kind of unwanted things. Like somehow our minds either want to say like, oh, it's no good, but then somebody might hear like kale is good for you, and they'll eat like kale smoothies every single day, the same kind of kale, and it actually can end up poisoning them. Like you're supposed to have variety in life, like have spinach one day, have a different kind of kale, have the red kale or the, so anyway, I was just thinking how wonderful is Krishna. He makes everything perfect. And we don't have to be so extreme. Krishna gives his mercy. We could take things and it can help us. We don't have to avoid all kinds of things. Just take it as not poison, but Krishna's love and medicine to help us get rid of the unwanted things. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Kumari, for your medicinal input to this class.
Thank you so much, Krishna Kumari, Devi.
Great. Would anyone like to add anything? We've talked about herbs, talked about intelligence, giving up
Talked about
intelligence.
Pole vaulting.
Yeah, yes, Venu Madhuri. By the way, dear devotees, Venu Madhuri is giving class next week. Isn't that ecstatic? Yeah,
Krishna fulfills all my desires. I'm so excited.
yeah.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. Thank you very much, dear devotees, for your association. We will request Dana Krishna's Radharani to recite the Maha Mantra to complete the offering for today. Dana Krishna's Radharani.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Wonderful is Krishna, Hare Bo, Hare Bo. Love you guys so much. Jai, jai, jai.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was my alarm clock. I won that on my alarm clock. Okay. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.